that needs to cope with both the need for retirement income for a whole variety of purposes and the need for retirement income for health-related and long-term care-related shocks, as Jack and others were reminding us this morning. Because we have less by way of public programs, even though they're fundamentally important to us and they're quite substantial and successful in their own right, even though they are somewhat less than some of our partners. And so when we compare ourselves to Australia, for example, with their 9% employer mandatory contribution, possibly going up to 12%, and we'll hear the more precise background and description this afternoon. When we compare ourselves even to the UK, with its mandatory employer plans in effect now under the new system that they're implementing, with a 3%, 3% employer mandatory matching contribution to match the 4% automatic enrollment that they're phasing in to their system. We're obviously doing a lot less. The implications of that, I think, are not fully taken into account in some of our policy discussions. We talk about the fact that the shift from DB to DC has occurred throughout the Western world. It's occurred in the Netherlands, in the UK, et cetera, in Germany, et cetera. But what we may not be taking into account is that shift from DB to DC may be a bit of a misnomer in our system. Not so much in, let's say, the Netherlands, where the shift to defined contribution plans still retains collective risk sharing of various kinds, collective investment, less individual investment decisions, less perhaps individual decision making of other kinds, and we'll hear more about that, I expect, this afternoon as well. What we have, I would suggest, is not so much a shift from DB to DC, but a shift from DB to UC. We don't have a defined contribution system that has persisted in a robust way. We've shifted to 401ks. Yes, they're technically defined contribution plans, as cash balance are technically defined benefit plans. But in fact, as we all know, the defined contribution has not persisted in a very pervasive or major way as a percentage of our system. There's the undefined contribution by the individual. They'll contribute what they'll contribute. There's the undefined contribution by the employer. They'll match the uncertain employee contribution. The defined contribution, an employer non-elective, non-matching contribution, is not extinct, but certainly not a major part of our landscape. A bunch of employers have instituted non-elective employer contributions when they took down their defined benefit plans, when the DB was frozen, when traditional was converted to cash dollars, and they don't think about what that translates to as a monthly income for the rest of their life. It looks like a fortune. Don't have to worry about this anymore. We also have problems because it's hard to think rationally when confronting one's own mortality. And I'm not sure that we've really, the psychology experts in our world have fully contributed to that part of our problem from a policy standpoint. That we've got people thinking in ways about retirement income and about longevity risk that are colored by the inescapable difficulty of thinking about one's own demise and mortality and the timing of it. All the people who offhandedly say, oh, I'm not going to live very far, in my 70s anyway, so I don't need to worry about it. Those are coping mechanisms, obviously. I don't purport to understand that, but there are people in this room, and particularly out of this room, who might be able to actually help us get people to think more realistically about their long-term planning. And then there's the asymmetry of the risk dynamics. We know that accumulation phase and decumulation phase do not present symmetric risk. We know that a few bad years in the beginning or middle of the accumulation phase are readily transcended by subsequent performance in asset allocated investments per modern portfolio theory, etc. But that not so much in the case of decumulation. That if you have a few bad years toward the early part of your decumulation phase, of your payoff phase, that can really be fatal to the adequacy of your planning and your savings. So we've got a lot of impediments to overcome there. I would suggest that we are to some degree neglecting the lowest hanging fruit in the solutions to the annuity problem. Part of that is the defined benefit plans. We've established a large portion of our DB universe in the form of lump sum plans. Cash balance plans are good. They're employer funded. They're pensions. Many of them pay a lot of annuities, but they do pay mostly lump sums. A few of them don't offer lump sums, but almost all of them not only offer, but pay lump sums for the most part. And to those who are wondering, Richard, Harry, others, we are getting our regulations out, final regulations on cash balance plans, finally, in the quite near future. And we believe that cash balance plans are a good thing and are well worth supporting. But can we do better in terms of encouraging annuities to get a fair shake in the employee's decision? Is the choice architecture of the DB plan, and I'm not talking about only the cash balance or PEP, that frames the presumptive benefit as a lump sum because it frames the accumulating benefit as an account balance. I'm talking about even the traditional DB that frames the choice at retirement so often as an all or nothing choice. If you want one of our 7 flavors of annuities, joint survivor, 50%, 100%, 75, single life, 10 CNC, etc., or do you want what, since it's just you and I here at the exit interview, I'm not giving you advice, but do you want what everybody takes, which is the lump sum? It's not obviously that people shouldn't choose the lump sum if that's what they conclude is best for them, but it feels like the thumb is on the scale in favor of the lump sum in this choice architecture, especially when it's presented as an all or nothing choice. Many of the plans will allow a mix of lump sum and annuities, but you may not discover that as a retiree. Inadvertently, HR people don't have an interest necessarily in discouraging the annuity, but it's simpler to just present the options quickly, and the election form tends to do that. And so the reframing of the question, how much of your retirement benefit do you like as an annuity? And how much, if any, as a lump sum? It can be 100%, 0%, either direction. It's purely up to you, the retiring individual. But merely reframing it that way, would that help? Just as we're trying, and our partners in attempting to encourage lifetime income, the Department of Labor, who have jurisdiction over the Lifetime Income Illustration Project, which we suggested to them at the outset of the administration, and which they very much agreed would be a good idea. They'll be coming out with more on that soon, but clearly that helps too in the defined contribution world, as do many of the other things that folks here are doing in the market and that we are hoping to continue helping with. We hope to finally issue our final regulations on longevity insurance, longevity annuities, those that begin at age 85 or 80, for the now, 12, $13 trillion 401k plus IRA market. We are hoping to issue guidance soon on accumulating annuities in 401ks, on potentially embedded annuities within a target date fund. You can get people to perhaps go along with the annuity decision earlier in their career if the fixed income portion of the target date fund is an annuity, a fixed annuity, for example, and other strategies that people have been working but have not had much success yet selling on a wide scale in the market. I have a lot more along these lines that I'd love to talk to you about, but would like to hear your thoughts, ideas, and questions. I know one of the topics that I think, Olivia, you mentioned to me earlier that might be good for either Q&A or this presentation, let's do it in Q&A, is this new initiative that the President announced in the State of the Union address that we're trying to implement now, the MyRA. I'd be happy to talk about that if people are interested. So we open it up and